All right. And as we said, the klal is that first of all, you have to fix tikkun klali. That's the overriding tikkun. And that already brings tikkun befrat to everything, even though tikkun klali is really above everything. It's much higher and more exalted than tikkun of every single thing in detail. Still, since the tikkun of everything depends on the moyach, in other words, to bring whiteness from the moyach, bivchinas v'nois milevonon, and those that are dripping down, that flowing from the levonon, which alludes to the whiteness that comes from the brain. And to elevate the moyach and to bring down that whiteness from the moyach, it's not possible unless it's through tikkun klali. You have to do this overriding tikkun klali that elevates the moyach. It's like a brain, like an eagle that awakens its nest, like an eagle hovers over its nest with its wings. It awakens its chicks to feed them. Nesher, the Tikkun Azor says this is Ruach. Ruach is Tikkun Klali. We visited that particular Bechina a few times. That elevates, that awakens the Mechin. Ibchinas Kne Chokma Kne Bina. That's why Al Ken Tzurch Mitchilo El Madraga Yosel Yonim. That's why you have to go to a higher Madriga. Dahainu Tikkun Klali. You have to go first of all to Tikkun Klali. And then a sakam l'remes hamoyach, and then you have to fix and elevate the moyach. And through this, everything gets fixed automatically. Now, the union of tikkun needs to be explained as follows. Whenever there's a problem, that problem can, if there is bichlal, a solution for something, the solution is always in the seichel of that thing. If somebody is, let's say, is in debt, it happens a lot, and many people have sunk into tremendous amount of debt. Tremendous. And these are people that, even people that are earning a very nice amount of money. They can earn 20, 30,000 shekels a month. And suddenly they find themselves that they are, in hock with the banks for millions of shekels, millions, literally millions. I know of a person, that was in a target of 40 million shekels. How does a person even get to be in debt of 40 million shekels? But that's a really an extreme case. But then people can get into 750,000 shekels, 1 million shekels. People that earn a very nice amount of money out of 20, 30,000 shekels. What goes on here? So a person like this, that finds himself suddenly in such tremendous amount of debt, or it can be somebody that has a specific illness, that it's possible for this to have a reform, or a couple has a problem of shalom bayis, of peace in the house, relationship. The tikkun of any of those things, let's say the people with the debt, the people with the debt, what they do is that they go to an expert, the financial expert. And what he does, the first thing that he does is he tells the people that come to him, how much, first of all, go ahead and keep on spending what you're spending. Don't change anything. The only thing that I'm asking you to do is collect receipts for every single expenditure that you make. Okay. At the end of the month, they come to the person and to this consultant, and he writes down before him, okay, what are all your incomes? You have a salary, you have this, you have that, you own an apartment, and people pay you rent, whatever it is, everything is written down. Then they take and they add up all the expenses. And what is found out, very usually, that the problem is that the people, they actually earn 20, 30,000 shekels a month or more. And because they earn so much money, they don't really pay attention to how much money they spend. What happens is that instead of, they spend 50,000 shekels a month. And here maybe they put in a jacuzzi, or maybe this, or maybe that. And the thing is that when a person earns 40,000 shekels a month and spends 50,000 shekels a month, or even 45,000 shekels a month, every single month it accumulates. Now the thing is that the banks, they don't care. They see that you put in 40,000 shekels every month, and you're taking 45. That's good for them because they get to lend you money and charge you interest. When do you find out that this is what's going on? When suddenly everything explodes because we became 750,000 shekels in debt, and the bank is saying, yo, where's my whole money? Suddenly they wake up. So what do? So the tikkun of this financial situation is in the mind, is in the moyach, is in the seichel. The tikkun of that particular situation is look what your expenses are, not just your expenses for this month, but throughout the year, because not every month is equal. You have Tishrei with all the Yom Tovim, you have Pesach with all its expenses. So you have to, when you are writing out how much you're going to spend and how much you budget, for every month, you have to bring a cheshbon that are going to be months that you'll have to spend more. You also have to put some money aside for unforeseen expenses. So you do all that. And then that's okay, now what are you going to do without the debt? So there can be restructuring. He tells me you go to the bank, you take out one big loan to cover up for all your debt. You parcel out the debt, you make it part, of your budget, and then there's a tikkun the situation, which means that a tikkun of every single situation is from the seichel. You realize what the problem is, and then you can realize what the tikkun is. This is a tikkun for that particular situation. Let's say in Shlom Bayis. In Shlom Bayis, what do you take analyzing? What is the relationship like? What are the problems? What are the people? We all have spouses, and family relationship, and there are certain things that can be fixed, and certain things that cannot be fixed, and we have to accept them. And when a person arrives at the proper eitzah, when a person gets a proper advice, he learns. He says, "Listen, these are the things that can be changed. As they say in the various AA programs, whatever it is, to have the wisdom to know the things that you cannot change, and the things that you can change, and have the power to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the things that you can change, or the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And this is basically means that the tikkun is in the sherish. Rabbeinu tells us that there is a tikkun, which is a tikkun for everything. When a person understands, when a person gets a tikkun from the tzaddik, this is a tikkun for the entire life. When a person has the right view on life, all the different kind of problems that arise, you still have to go to, something, but it prevents a lot of problems of coming. A person that milchatchila does not overspend, and not because he's just watching his penny. It's a person who's, he lives modestly. He knows he has to eat whatever money comes in, whatever it is, the rest of his time he puts into Avodas Hashem. It solves 95% of the problem or more. And whatever it is that is there, whatever it is, a Kodesh Baruch Hu is not, any problem, Kodesh Baruch Hu is not there. It's still, so there's the problems that are coming. And as the problem arises, a person needs to bring a tikkun to that situation. It means calling out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the things about the tikkun. So this is a tikkun hakloli. The tikkun hakloli means the fundamental rectification of the situation. You have a seichel that rectifies the situation, and that allows for tikkun of everything. Now, the same thing applies. The same thing applies, this tikkun hakloli applies to the things that really matter, which are the averos. Now, every single infraction against the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a damage. That damage has to be rectified. Now, in the structure of a person's being, person's neshama, person's guf, person's nefesh, all his bechinos, everything is divided into 65 limbs and 348 sinews. Beruchnis also, and each one of them is also divided into it, and this is together the shasa and the 248. They make up Taryag 613, the number of mitzvahs. You have 365 mitzvahs that are positive commandments. You have 248, of lavin, of negative, of prohibitions. And each one is comprised of Taryag, the 365, the 248, positive and negative mitzvahs, and so forth and so on. What it means is that a person can commit a certain infraction, okay? That infraction, that sin, that avera, damages a certain spiritual limb or senior, okay? Now, let's say that the avera that the person did wasn't bemazed. It wasn't intentional. It was shoygig. Like, he knew that it was forbidden, but he forgot. Or, it's like, this is the end of shogi. Shogi means that his mind wasn't there. It means that the damage was basically in the Chochmah Bin Das, in the Moichen of that particular limb of senior, spiritual limb of senior, because the Das wasn't there. Then there is something that the person didn't actually do, but he thought of doing. So again, it becomes, a detail of a detail of a detail. It's like so if, let's say, that in the mitzvahs, there is a mitzvah which corresponds with the ear, okay? Now, the ear itself, that mitzvah, also has 613 limbs. So spiritually, that ear has legs, let's say, okay? The right leg or the left leg, okay? A person is listening to Lashon Hara, okay? It's a Hoylach Racha, whatever it is. So this is like a pagam in the leg of the ear. Okay, now to say that it wasn't a total Lashon Hara, but it was Avak Lashon Hara. So let's say it was a pagam in the head of the leg of the ear of that particular mitzvah. In other words, the infractions, the kilkulim, the kilkul, the damage, can become so specific and so subtle that to find the actual solution, the actual tikkun to that particular fraction becomes virtually impossible. You don't remember what it is. You don't even know how to diagnose what it is. And so Rabbeinu says that a tikkun for all these things is tikkun akloli. That's a total, the ultimate, absolute tikkun. That tikkun already injects tikkunim and to all, like the most subtle of the subtlest of places and sins, and everything becomes clean and everything becomes what it is. When a person is misaken tikkun akloli, this is the thing that elevates that rectifies all the mitzvahs. All the averos, all the kilkulim, all the damages. The tzaddik constitutes the tikkun akloli. Even speaking about the tzaddikim, the shevach tzaddikim, the praise of the tzaddikim, already elevates the moichin. Because whenever it is, there's an isur, there's a prohibition of mentioning the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in vain. So much so that even to make a bracha, to cause a need to make an extra bracha that is not necessary is already an isur. It's an avera. You have something that you could, let's say you're in the middle of the meal, and you have something that, I don't know, you have something, I don't know, some kind of I don't know, part of the meal, maybe you want to drink something or whatever it is, and you say Birkas Hamazon, and the result, when you want to drink the water afterwards or something like this, you have to make another bracha. That's called the bracha she'eina tzricha, because you should have drunk it when you were eating the meal. That's already an avera. You can't drink without a bracha, but even mentioning the name of Hashem, not in vain, is already a problem. Same way, a person should not mention the name of the angels whose names are not usual names of people, like Michael and Gavriel. These are normal names of people. You can say it's the names of angels also. You're allowed to say those names, no problem. Then you have like Machmatat and all kinds of other malachim. Their full name is not a name of people. You're not allowed to mention those names, and if a person does it, it brings about damage. Why? Why is that happening? So we said that the reason why you're not allowed to mention the name of the angels and the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, obviously, because what happens is whenever you say the name of Hashem or the name of an angel, it brings about the presence of Hashem and the presence of that angel. You're summoning that angel. You're summoning the Shekhinah. If the name is mentioned without need, without a legitimate need, it damages the person. It's like a person who is taking medication that he does not need, that it damages him. It can make him sick, or worse than that. So therefore, you have to be very careful when you mention the name of Hashem, name of the Malachim, unless you are like Chofetz Chaim, you can summon them and send them to do whatever it is. You're not allowed to mention their names at all. The main nekuda remains that the same thing that exists when it comes to Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Malachim, the same thing applies to tzaddikim. When a person mentions a tzaddik, just says the name of the tzaddik. When you learn Gemara, you learn Halacha, you learn Dova B'Shem Omrei, you are actually summoning the zchus of that tzaddik and the power of all the Torah that tzaddik learned, and therefore that presence of the tzaddik, when you are mentioning his name, when you are praising his deeds, when you are learning his Torah, what it does, it elevates the moichin. It has the effect of elevating the moichin. Elevation of the moichin is causing the injection of lavnunis into all the narrow blood vessels, as you say, the spiritual blood vessels. In other words, the places where infractions cause damage, and brings about tikkun to all the different inyanim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'ezrat Hashem will help us in this point in time. We're getting ready for Pesach. We have Shabbos HaGodel coming up. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll talk about it tomorrow more when we're learning Torah Samech. But in the meantime, we should remember and be meschazek and strengthen ourselves in emunas tzaddikim, in faith in the tzaddikim, the koach of the tzaddikim, that it is a part that the Kadosh Baruch Hu created in the Bria. Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world in such a way that when a person does what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants him to do, he becomes something different. He becomes a godly being. He's making himself into a godly being by doing what a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants him to do. That's the nature of the creation of Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the way Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted the world to be. But Hashem will all be zoche to come close to tzaddikim and mention the name of the tzaddikim, praise the tzaddikim, learn their Torah, elevate our moach, and therefore inject whiteness into all the damaged places through our various, even the most subtle of the subtle places, and become spiritually healthy and physically healthy, totally and completely. B'ezrat Hashem, and we'll have Chag Kosher V'Sameach. B'ezrat Hashem will end here, and we'll continue tomorrow night with Torah Samech. Kol Tuv and Zami Gesund. Kol Tuv.